All right, so welcome to another deep dive.
Yeah.
Today,
Let's do it.
we are going to tackle a topic
Okay.
that I think a lot of people are fascinated by
Mm-hmm.
and probably a little afraid to talk about.
Yeah.
It's monogamy and adultery.
Oh, juicy.
Yeah.
Ew.
And we're going to explore
Okay.
how biology and societal expectations kind of collide in our relationships.
Yeah.
And we're going to do all of this based on insights from a single YouTube video
Interesting.
that features like a round table of experts.
Cool.
So are you ready to unpack all of this?
I'm ready. Let's go.
Okay, so this video
Right.
does not shy away from the tough stuff.
Okay.
Right off the bat,
Mm-hmm.
we hear from Helen Fisher,
I know Helen Fisher.
who is a biological anthropologist.
Yes.
And she just straight up says,
Okay.
both monogamy and the adultery are
Yeah.
natural human behaviors.
Interesting.
They're rooted in our evolutionary past.
Okay, so like it's not just a modern thing.
It's not a modern thing.
Like deep in us.
She even goes so far as to say that we as humans
Mm-hmm.
evolved with a dual reproductive strategy.
A dual reproductive strategy.
Yeah, no, it's a lot.
Okay. Explain.
And this might have given men and women
Mhm.
some surprising advantages
Interesting.
way back in the day,
Way back. Way back.
like hunter-gatherer days.
Got it.
So basically, infidelity
Yeah.
hardwired into us.
Interesting. Okay.
Tell me more about this dual strategy.
Yes, please.
Okay, so think about it this way.
All right.
From a purely biological standpoint,
Okay.
for a man to have children with multiple women,
Mm-hmm.
what does that do?
Ah,
Increases the spread of his genes.
that's right. Yeah.
More offspring means more DNA gets passed on.
So it's a numbers game?
It's a numbers game.
Okay.
But what about the women?
Right. Like what's in it for them?
Exactly. What do they gain from all this?
Yeah. Good question.
That's where it gets interesting. For women, adultery wasn't just about spreading genes.
Yeah, well,
It provided them
yeah.
with access
Okay.
to additional resources,
Okay.
like maybe extra food
Yeah.
or better protection from a stronger partner.
So like safety and resources.
Totally.
Okay.
Plus, it could have helped ensure genetic diversity for their offspring.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, which
We
means,
have a better chance of survival.
yeah, better chance of survival.
Okay. So even way back then,
Mm-hmm.
like the men weren't the only ones
Not just the guys.
just stepping out. Okay.
It was a survival strategy
Wow.
for both sexes.
Okay.
Now, fast forward to today.
All right.
We have another anthropologist,
Okay.
Christopher Ryan,
Mm-hmm.
and he points out this conflict.
Uh-oh. What kind of conflict?
Well, okay, so he says
Yeah.
humans hardwired
Mm-hmm.
to crave novelty,
Okay.
and that includes novelty in the romantic relationships.
So we're all just programmed to get bored.
Well, it's not so much
Oh.
about boredom as it is about our brains seeking out new
Yeah.
stimuli.
Makes sense.
It's how we learn, it's how we adapt.
Right. Right.
But here's the problem.
Uh-oh.
This biological drive
Yeah.
clashes big time
Yeah.
with our societal expectations
Oh, okay.
of long-term monogamy.
Oh, yeah, because we're supposed to stay.
Yeah, madly in love
Yeah, forever.
with the same person
With the same person forever.
for decades.
Right, and keep the spark alive.
Right, society tells us
Yeah.
to find forever love, keep the spark alive.
Right. Find your soulmate, the one.
The one.
Yeah.
What if
What if?
the decrease in passion over time
Mm-hmm.
isn't a personal failing?
Okay.
What if it's just biology?
Oh, interesting.
And that's exactly Ryan's point.
So it's not our fault.
It's not our fault.
Okay.
He says that intense, all-consuming passion
Mm-hmm.
of new love,
Yeah, the honeymoon phase.
it's fueled by hormones
It is.
like dopamine
And norepinephrine.
and norepinephrine. Over time,
Mm-hmm.
those levels naturally decrease,
They do?
which makes way for other hormones
Okay.
that promote bonding and attachment.
I see. So it's not
It's not that we're broken.
broken.
It's that our brains literally
Yeah.
rewire themselves
Okay.
for a different
For a different kind of love.
kind of love.
Interesting.
So are you saying those cheesy rom-com endings?
Hmm.
Not exactly realistic.
Well, let's just say
No.
they leave out the part where the fireworks fade.
Right, and that's where the societal pressure comes in.
Oh.
We're just bombarded with all these messages
Right.
about forever love and keeping the spark alive.
Yeah, like it's our job to
Mhm.
manufacture those feelings forever.
Exactly. So then what happens? We
Right.
start to feel like something's wrong
Like we're failing.
when those fireworks fade.
Yeah.
And that's when some people
Oh, I see where you're going with this.
might start looking for that excitement
Yeah.
elsewhere.
Elsewhere.
The affair.
Would you-
The affair.
Okay.
And that is something that Noel Biderman,
Noel Biderman.
yeah, the founder of Ashley Madison,
Oh, wow.
addresses in this video.
Okay, so he goes there.
He does.
Ashley Madison, that's the...
That's the website
For affairs?
for people seeking extramarital affairs.
Bold move.
So his perspective is definitely controversial.
Yes.
But he brings up a fascinating point
Okay. I'm listening.
about shifting priorities
Okay.
within long-term relationships.
Okay.
Biderman argues that as time goes on,
Mm-hmm.
sex
Yeah.
often takes a back seat
Okay.
to other aspects of life.
Like what?
Kids, finances,
Okay.
taking care of family.
Right, so life just gets in the way.
Life gets in the way.
Oh, okay.
And he's not saying that sex becomes unimportant.
It doesn't.
It's just that it's competing
With
a whole lot of other demands.
so much stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
But is he suggesting
Yeah.
that people just accept
Okay.
a lackluster sex life?
That's a good question.
Not exactly.
What he believes is that for some people, adultery
Okay.
is a way to find sexual fulfillment
Mhm.
while still maintaining the stability and benefits of their marriage. Oh, so they're having their cake and eating it too.
Trying to.
But is that even possible?
That's the million-dollar question, right?
It is.
And it's certainly fraught
Yeah.
with a lot of ethical and emotional complexities.
For sure.
But before we dive into all of that,
Okay.
let's go back to Christopher Ryan.
All right, back to Ryan.
He offers a pretty radical solution
Okay.
to this whole monogamy versus adultery dilemma.
I am very intrigued.
So he basically says we need to redefine the purpose
Okay.
of marriage.
What?
Ha-
How?
He argues that its true value
Yeah.
lies in companionship,
Okay.
shared experiences,
Mhm.
building a life together,
Right.
not necessarily in sexual exclusivity.
Whoa.
He is suggesting that
Yeah.
maybe, just maybe,
Okay.
we shouldn't view sexual fidelity as like the be-all and end-all of a successful marriage.
So he's saying rethink till death do us part
In a way,
when it comes to the bedroom.
yes.
You go-
Ryan believes
Okay.
that a more flexible approach
Okay.
to monogamy
Yeah.
might actually strengthen marriages
Wow. Okay.
by acknowledging the realities of human nature
Okay.
and the natural ebb and flow of desire.
So like release the pressure valve a bit.
Exactly.
Okay.
He argues that if we do that,
Then what?
we create more space for honesty, communication,
Mm.
and ultimately stronger bonds.
Okay, I see what he's saying, but
Yeah.
wouldn't that just lead to more heartbreak?
That's a valid concern.
Like, isn't the whole point of marriage to
Yes.
have that security?
Right, and that commitment.
Commitment, yeah.
And this video does not stop there.
It doesn't.
It introduces another perspective,
Okay.
equally thought-provoking,
All right.
from Esther Perel.
Esther Perel.
Yeah, she's a renowned psychotherapist.
I know Esther Perel.
Who specializes in relationships. And you guessed it, infidelity.
Of course, of course.
Okay, so what's her take?
I'm ready.
Perel actually argues
Okay.
that infidelity
Mm-hmm.
isn't always a sign
Okay.
of a feeling relationship.
Oh, well, seriously.
Seriously.
So people cheat even when they're happy.
She observed
Yeah.
that some people who are perfectly content in their relationships
Mm-hmm.
still have affairs,
Wow.
but they're not necessarily looking for a new partner.
They're not.
They're looking to rediscover a different version of themselves,
Oh, interesting.
a side that maybe they feel has been lost or neglected.
Okay.
It's about finding those missing pieces
Like of their identity.
of their identity.
Okay. So it's more about them
It's more about
than their partner.
than their partner,
The self-growth project,
Yeah.
but with someone else.
but with someone else.
Okay.
Now, obviously,
Yeah.
that's a very simplified way to put it,
Right.
and it doesn't excuse the pain that it causes.
Of course not.
But Perel argues
Yeah.
that the more we can integrate
Hmm.
different aspects of ourselves
Okay.
into our primary relationship,
Yeah.
the less likely we are to seek those missing pieces elsewhere.
So like work on yourself
Yeah.
within the relationship.
She even suggests that affairs
Yeah.
can sometimes be a catalyst for growth
What?
because they force couples
Mm-hmm.
to confront issues
Oh, okay.
they've been avoiding
Yeah.
and then rebuild their relationship
On a stronger foundation.
on a stronger foundation.
So infidelity is a wake-up call.
Yeah.
Ah. Interesting.
Doesn't diminish the pain and betrayal that comes with it.
Of course not.
The Perel stresses that understanding infidelity requires looking at both the harm it causes and the personal meaning it holds for the individual who strayed.
So it's complicated.
It's about recognizing the complexity of human motivation.
Right. So we've got ancient biology, societal pressures, individual desires.
It's a lot.
This is a lot.
No wonder this topic is so endlessly debated.
Right, because it's messy. Yeah, it is a tangled web, isn't it?
It really is.
And it's something that I think all of us grapple with, like on a personal level, you know?
Absolutely.
Whether we're trying to make our own relationships work or trying to understand like the choices that other people make.
Yeah.
Monogamy and adultery are definitely topics that like spark some pretty intense emotions.
It seems like there are no easy answers.
No.
Like what might be fine for one couple could be a complete disaster for another.
Absolutely. And I think that's why it's so crucial to understand all these different perspectives. You know, we've talked about biology. We've talked about societal expectations. We've even talked about the individual motivations for like seeking intimacy outside of a committed relationship.
Right. So what does all of this actually mean for us as individuals? Like,
good question.
Trying to figure out relationships today.
Right.
After listening to all these experts, I'm not even sure what I think anymore.
Right. That's the million-dollar question.
It is.
And I think it all starts with having like open and honest conversations with ourselves and our partner.
But how do you even begin to have those conversations when they're about such sensitive topics?
Right.
Where do you even start?
Well, I think one of the key takeaways from this video is the importance of understanding and accepting our own desires and needs. You know, we need to figure out what we really want.
Yeah.
Even if it's difficult to admit.
So, like, acknowledging that it's normal to find other people attractive, even if you're in a happy relationship.
Yes, exactly.
That seems like it would be a pretty tough conversation.
It can be, but it's about recognizing those feelings without judging yourself or your partner. It's about creating a safe space where you can both be honest about your vulnerabilities, your desires, without fear of being judged or rejected.
I can see how that kind of honesty could lead to a deeper level of intimacy.
For sure.
But it takes a lot of courage.
It does.
To be that vulnerable with someone.
It does, and it requires a willingness to really listen to each other. We might even need to be flexible and challenge those rigid societal expectations that we've all been conditioned to accept.
Right, because we've talked about those.
We have.
So instead of freaking out, if your partner admits to finding someone else attractive, you try to talk about it openly and honestly.
Exactly.
That seems so counterintuitive.
It might feel that way at first.
Yeah.
But it's about shifting the focus.
Okay.
From blame and accusation to understanding and empathy.
Okay.
Relationships are constantly evolving.
Yeah.
Just like people.
They are.
We can't expect things to stay the same forever.
Right. And that's not necessarily a bad thing.
Exactly.
So it's less about trying to force ourselves into this rigid mold of what we think a relationship should be.
Yes.
And more about creating something that actually works for both people.
Yeah. I think this video does a great job of like showcasing this by presenting such a wide range of perspectives, you know?
It does.
We've got Helen Fisher talking about our evolutionary past.
Right.
We've got Christopher Ryan calling for a more flexible approach to monogamy. And then Esther Perel's insights into the complex motivations behind infidelity.
Yeah.
I mean, we're getting this really rich view of the human experience.
It does make you question everything you thought you knew about relationships.
And I think that's a good thing.
Okay.
Questioning things allows us to break free from those limiting beliefs and societal pressures that stop us from building truly authentic and fulfilling relationships.
So we've got this whole new understanding now.
We do.
Of monogamy and adultery.
We do.
But what now?
Yeah, good question.
How do we take all this knowledge
and
actually apply it to our own lives?
Yeah.
It feels kind of overwhelming.
It's a lot to take in.
It is.
But I think the first thing to acknowledge is that, like, there's no magic formula for the perfect relationship.
There isn't.
What works for one couple might not work for another.
Right. So it's all about figuring out what works best for you
exactly
and your partner.
And that often requires open communication, a willingness to compromise, and a commitment to continuous growth and evolution.
But what about all those societal pressures that we talked about?
Oh, right.
The ones that tell us we're failing.
Yeah.
If our relationships aren't picture perfect.
Yeah. Those messages can be incredibly powerful.
They are.
And they often lead to shame and guilt.
It's hard to escape that feeling.
It is.
Sometimes.
But we need to remember that those messages are often based on unrealistic ideals and outdated social norms.
So we need to give ourselves permission to kind of rewrite the script.
Exactly.
Create our own definition of what a good relationship looks like.
And that starts with challenging those limiting beliefs.
Okay.
And embracing the messiness and complexity of real relationships,
Right, because nobody's perfect.
Nobody's perfect and relationships aren't either.
Okay, but let's be honest.
Okay.
Sometimes relationships do end.
They do.
And sometimes that ending is messy.
It can be.
And painful. Especially when infidelity's involved.
Yes, especially then.
What then?
It's true. Not all relationships are meant to last forever.
Yeah.
Sometimes ending a relationship, even when it's painful, is the healthiest choice.
Yeah.
For both people, it's about knowing when to let go.
But how do you even begin to heal from something like that?
That's a good question.
Especially when you're feeling betrayed and heartbroken.
Yeah. Right? It feels like your whole world is falling apart.
It does.
Healing takes time.
Yeah.
And it's a process that's different for everyone.
Okay.
One of the most important things, I think, is to allow yourself to feel those emotions.
So
anger, sadness, confusion.
Yeah.
Without judgment.
Don't bottle it up.
Don't bottle it up. Let it all out.
So it's okay to be a hot mess for a while.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Don't try to suppress those feelings.
Right.
Or pretend you're fine when you're not.
Okay.
Let yourself grieve the loss of the relationship and the future you thought you had. Yeah. It's important to acknowledge the pain before you can move past it.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But what about the guilt and shame that often comes with being cheated on?
Yes.
It's hard not to take it personally.
It is.
Even when you know it's not your fault.
I know, but it's crucial to remember that you are not to blame for your partner's actions.
Okay.
Infidelity is a choice that they made, and their actions reflect on them.
Okay.
Not on you. You didn't make them do anything.
Easier said than done, right?
Yes.
It's hard to separate yourself
from
the situation when you're in the thick of it.
It is, but it's an important step in healing.
Okay.
Blaming yourself will only prolong your pain and prevent you from moving forward.
So what can someone actually do to start moving forward after experiencing infidelity?
Right.
Are there practical steps to take?
Well, everyone is different, but therapy can be incredibly helpful in processing those complex emotions, rebuilding your self-esteem, talking to someone who understands these issues can make a big difference. Surrounding yourself with a supportive network of friends and family can also provide comfort and validation. It helps to know you're not alone.
And what about forgiveness?
Oh, that's a tough one.
Is that something you should strive for?
Yeah.
Or is it okay to hold on to that anger?
Forgiveness is a personal choice.
Okay.
And it's not something that should be rushed or forced.
Okay.
It's a process that happens in its own time, and it might not always be possible or even desirable.
So there's no right answer there.
No.
So it's okay to hold on to...
It's okay to feel those emotions.
Anger and resentment.
Yeah, but holding on to them for too long can be detrimental to your own well-being.
Right.
Forgiveness isn't necessarily about condoning the other person's actions, but rather about releasing yourself from the burden of anger and resentment.
So letting go of that weight you're carrying.
Exactly.
So ultimately, it's about focusing on your own healing and growth, regardless of whether or not your partner takes responsibility for their actions.
Exactly. You can't control what other people do.
Right.
But you can control how you respond and how you choose to move forward.
You always have a choice.
You always have a choice.
Wow, this whole conversation has been incredibly eye-opening.
It has.
I feel like I'm seeing monogamy and adultery in a completely different light.
In a whole new light, right?
Yeah, it's a lot more nuanced than I ever realized.
And that's the beauty of exploring these complex topics. It allows us to challenge our assumptions, expand our understanding of human behavior, and ultimately develop more compassion for ourselves and others.
Absolutely.
We all make mistakes, and we're all just trying to figure things out.
So we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
From the biology of desire to the societal pressures that shape our relationships and the very personal experiences of love. betrayal, and healing.
It's a lot.
But there's one question that keeps popping up in my mind.
Oh, what's that?
If our biology predisposes us to both pair bonding and seeking novelty, what does that mean for the future of relationships?
That is the question, isn't it?
It is.
Can we reconcile these seemingly contradictory drives?
Right.
Or do we need to rethink our expectations
of monogamy?
Of monogamy altogether?
Is this a sign that monogamy just isn't realistic?
That's a fantastic question. And I think it's one that each of us needs to grapple with on a personal level, There's no easy answer.
Right.
And there's no one-size-fits-all solution.
So it's about finding what works best.
Exactly.
For each individual and each couple.
Yeah, and it's about recognizing that, relationships are fluid and dynamic, just like life itself.
Okay.
Things change, people change.
Right.
And it's okay to adapt and evolve.
I'm starting to see how all this kind of fits together, but there's still so much to unpack.
Oh, absolutely.
And explore.
And that's the beauty of this journey.
It is.
The more we learn, the more we realize how much more there is to discover.
It's a lifelong process.
It is.
Yeah, it really is a journey, this whole relationship thing.
It is. It's a lifelong process.
And this deep dive has been quite the ride.
Yeah.
We've explored so much.
We have.
From the biological roots of monogamy and adultery to the societal pressures that shape our relationships and the very personal experiences of love, betrayal, and healing.
Right.
It's made me realize just how much there is to learn.
It's a topic that has fascinated philosophers and scientists for centuries.
Right.
And, we're still trying to figure it all out.
Right. And I think that's what makes it so fascinating. It's this constant interplay between our instincts, our culture, and our individual choices.
Exactly.
And we started this deep dive with this really simple question.
Yeah.
Why do monogamy and adultery exist side by side?
Side by side in humans,
In humans, and it turns out
it's a good question.
There's no easy answer.
No.
We've heard from experts who say infidelity is a natural biological drive.
Right, like it's in our genes.
Then others suggest it's a symptom of societal pressures or even a yearning for personal growth.
Right, so many different angles.
It seems like everyone has a different take.
Yeah, everyone's got an opinion on it.
And that's okay.
It is. There's no one-size-fits-all answer when it comes to love and relationships.
Right. And what's important is that we approach these topics with open minds.
Yes.
And a willingness to challenge our own assumptions.
Absolutely.
And I think one thing that really struck me was this idea that relationships are
constantly evolving.
Constantly evolving.
They are.
And we can't expect things to stay the same forever.
Nope.
And that's not necessarily a bad thing.
Not at all.
It's about
embracing that evolution.
Embracing that evolution, being open to change.
Yes.
Communicating honestly with our partners.
Yeah, I think that's a recurring theme.
It is, right?
Yeah.
It keeps coming up.
Throughout this whole deep dive.
Yeah, and that requires a lot of vulnerability.
It does.
And courage. Because it's not always easy.
Right.
To have those tough conversations.
Nope, it's not.
Especially when you're worried about, rocking the boat.
It can be scary.
Yeah. So, are we saying monogamy is doomed?
I don't think it's about, labeling monogamy as doomed or unrealistic. I think it's more about recognizing that relationships take work. And monogamy, like any relationship model, requires ongoing communication, honesty, a willingness to adapt to each other's needs over time.
It's not about adhering to a set of rules.
Exactly.
It's about making conscious choices that align with your values.
And your partner's values.
So having those open and honest conversations early on and then continuing to check in throughout the relationship.
Exactly.
Relationships are a journey, not a destination.
I love that.
And it's a journey that you take together.
You do.
There will be bumps along the way.
Always.
There'll be times when you need to reevaluate your course.
You will.
But the key is to do it together.
Together.
With empathy and understanding.
That's beautiful.
So we've covered a lot of ground.
We have.
In this deep dive.
So much.
What's one key takeaway?
We'll
hope our listener walks away with today.
I think the most important thing to remember is that there's no right or wrong way to do relationships.
That's a good one.
What works for one couple might not work for another, and that's okay.
It is okay.
The key is to find what works best for you and your partner, and to approach your relationship with honesty, compassion, and a willingness to evolve.
I love that.
Yeah.
So are you ready to resurface
I think so.
from this deep dive?
Yeah, let's come up for air.
All right, but I have a feeling this conversation is going to continue.
I think so too.
Long after we sign off.
It's a big one.
We've explored some complex and challenging ideas.
Yeah, we have.
But ultimately, it's up to each individual to decide what resonates with them and how they want to apply these insights to their own lives and relationships.
It's all about personal growth.
Absolutely. And on that note,
all right,
it's time for us to say goodbye.
Okay.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
On this deep dive into monogamy and adultery.
It's been fun.
We hope you've learned something new.
Yeah.
And that you'll continue to explore these fascinating topics on your own.
Absolutely.
Until next time.
Yeah.
Keep diving deep.
Keep diving deep.
And keep seeking knowledge.
Always be learning.
And remember.
Yeah.
No matter what challenges you face in your relationships, you're not alone.
We're all in this together.
We are all in this together.